120-mile journey on a donkey with your husband. I mean, just a crazy, crazy trip. Think stress. So the first Christmas, yes, peace on earth and all that, but a lot of stress thrown in there as well. But it wasn't without a purpose. And that's what we have to see today. That behind the scenes, God is orchestrating something incredible. And he is planning something that would impact for eternity. He uses them. So I want to look at the 4 reasons why Christ came that we get from this story and we get from the life of Jesus. The first reason is this, that Jesus came to show how God works. Jesus came to show how God works. Now, when you read the story at first, you're thinking, what could God be doing through a census and through a virgin who's pregnant, surrounded by controversy? What could God possibly do through that? Well, the short and the quick answer is that God doesn't work in the way in which we expect him to work. He works in surprising and sometimes stressful, but always wonderful ways. God doesn't always work how we work or how we'd expect him to work. But specifically, he's working through Caesar Augustus, this ruler of the Roman Empire who doesn't acknowledge God as Lord and Creator. He doesn't follow God as the leader of his life. He wants to be God, but God still uses this guy, unknowing, uses his census in order to fulfill this prophecy that's found in Micah chapter 5, verse 2, that says, "But you, Bethlehem, Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from old, from ancient times." So in other words, God uses this guy who thinks he's God to plan a census to get Joseph and Mary to the town in which he's predicted the Messiah will be born. This little small town. It's not a big town. He says, though you're small in size, it's not a big town. It's not exactly how I would have done it. I don't know about you, but I probably would have gone to Caesar if I was going to use him and just say, hey, listen, king's going to be born. He's more powerful than you. You better let him sit on your throne, or it's going to be big trouble. I'm God, Probably would have done it in a big town like L.A. or New York so the whole world could hear. But here it is, Jesus, King of the world, is being born off in a pocket here where hardly anybody sees it. It's not exactly how I do things, but that is how God works. He uses Mary, and even though she would be subjected to shame in this whole ordeal, he uses her because she was going to be a virgin who's miraculously going to give birth to this baby Jesus, to fulfill Isaiah 7:14, which was written thousands of years before, that says, "Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign." Now there can't be any more clear sign than this, or a sign that is just more attention-grabbing than this. "The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel." A virgin will give birth. She had to be a virgin. She had to be unmarried. If she was married, she wouldn't have been a virgin. So God had to do it this way. And yet, she was exposed to this shame. It's not exactly how I would have done things. If we're going to do it this way, I might have got a caravan of angels and made sure everybody saw it with flaming swords that basically sent the message, you mess with her, you talk about her, you mess with me. And God are there, But it's not how God works. And the lesson, I think, for us that God is trying to give us is very simple. That the same God who is orchestrating these incredible circumstances and events, these unlikely ones, to save the world, the same God, it's the same God orchestrating the events and the circumstances of our lives. And that if he can work through them and their circumstances, he can work through our circumstances as well. We serve the same God. He makes the same promises to us. I know for me, it's hard to imagine that nothing is impossible with God. But through this story, he shows us that no person is too lost, no situation is too hopeless. And I know when things are going different than what I think or what I would have them do, I'm real quick to say, why did it have to go that way? Or why do these things have to happen to me? That I forget to ask, what is it that God wants to do through these circumstances? What is it that God wants to do in me and through me? I've shared this story before. I'll just give the I'm not going to talk about the whole thing, just the details you need to know. And that is, in 1999, my wife and I lived in a little apartment in Moore, Oklahoma, and an F6 tornado came through, maybe you've seen it on the Weather Channel, and completely destroyed the entire complex of 650 units, including ours. We lost everything. And that was in May. And so for the next 7 months of that year, I wasn't real super emotional about it. I was just very determined to fix things, to get us set up in a home, house to live in, to get the insurance so that we could get the things that we needed. Determined in my church, because many families had lost their homes, and we set up a food bank and a clothing bank and all that. And I'm just doing all these things, determined, going, we got to fix these things. We got to do it as we should, But it came Christmas Eve time, and I thought about this last week because it's, we're leading up to Christmas. And we had a candlelight service, like we do, but it was a little bit smaller of a church, well, actually a lot smaller of a church, and we had a lot smaller room here, and we were gathered around the inside in a circle, and we could all gather and form a circle inside, and we're all holding the candles, and the pastor had asked one of the ladies to open up in prayer. Now, I'll never forget how she prayed. She opens up with this. She says, "Lord, thank you." And then she paused and she says, "Thank you." And then she said, "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." And she just continued in that way. And I told you I'm not emotional. But stuff started flooding in from that last year, and I just lost it completely. And my wife looked at me like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was thinking about it later, and what it wasn't so much that, God spared my life. I was thankful for that. But the thing that came to me was all the incredible things that happened over the last 7 months, all the surprising ways that had nothing to do with what I had done to fix things and what I had done to do these things, that God had blessed my life. I thought about, I graduated from Ozark Christian College, where Roger went, and a lot of people on staff went, and just small little college, and one chapel service, they announced what happened with us, and they took up a little love offering, and those college students that normally can't afford pizza from Domino's sent us $5,000, unexpected, had no idea. Somebody called us up and just said, hey, a company that heard about what had happened said, "We've got a washer, dryer, fridge, table, and chairs, brand new in the box with a warranty with your name on it. We just want this to be a gift to you to take care of you." The kids in my youth group, I was a youth pastor at the time, the teenagers, they got together and kind of pulled, like the guys pulled their clothes together. And I think they were getting like all the cool clothes that they wished I would wear. And they gave them all to me and said, "Here you go." Just incredible thing. I mean, just overwhelming. And just all the relationships that bonded and how the community came together, and just all the things that happened, all the things that God did, all the surprising ways in which he worked through bad circumstances. God works through bad circumstances to bring about our good for his glory. And it's the way he works. And so I don't know what it is that you're going through right now, or when you hit circumstances, and what comes to your mind, and how you handle those things, and what kind of questions come. But could it be that God wants to do something special and unique in your life and through you and in you, through these circumstances that we're trying to get out of, that we're trying to avoid, that we're trying to hold ourselves up with with our defenses around us and say, "I want out of this." And God said, I want to work through this, and I want to work in you. And I just challenge you the next time that you have the perfectly normal questions, that say, "Why am I still living here?" Or "Why am I still working here?" "Why aren't I working somewhere?" Whatever it is has to be, that you also stop and ask, what is it that God wants to do in me and through me and in this circumstance?